It was a cold October night in 1873 when a seemingly innocent encounter on a quiet Dublin street spiraled into a nightmare accusation. Two local respectable carriage drivers, Patrick Mulvey and Christopher Sherwin, found themselves facing a murder charge, a charge so serious it would have cost them their lives. How did these men avoid an unjust punishment? How did one woman's false accusation nearly change their lives forever? Join us on Historical Crime Chronicles as we explore this extraordinary case of perjury, deception, and a very narrow escape from disaster in the Dublin Canal incident. Patrick Mulvey and Christopher Sherwin stood accused of a heinous crime in front of Dublin's Northern Division Police Court. But was there a murder? Let's go back to that fateful night on the 10th of October, 1873. It was between 11 and 12 o'clock when a woman named Eliza Connor, who had been standing outside Leach's public house, claimed she saw Mulvey and Sherwin accost a gentleman by the canal. According to her, the men demanded money for a drink, and when the gentleman refused, she said they dragged him to the canal's edge, and shortly after, she heard a splash. Eliza's story painted a grim picture, but the body of the so-called victim was nowhere to be found. The police dragged the canal that night and again the following morning, yet no trace of the missing man was discovered. As the case progressed, the tension in the courtroom rose. It seemed certain that Mulvey and Sherwin would be convicted, as Eliza Connor's testimony left little room for doubt. She claimed she saw the men return from the canal without the gentleman, and when she questioned them, Mulvey knocked her down twice and threatened her, saying they'd do to her what they did to him. The universal opinion in court was that a terrible murder had been committed, but just as the magistrate, Mr. Dix, was preparing to pass judgment and commit the prisoners, Patrick Mulvey spoke up. He denied the accusations and said that the gentleman who was alleged to have been murdered was actually standing in the court and could speak for himself. To everyone's surprise, the supposed murder victim, Thomas Robb, was standing in the courtroom, alive and well. The man then came forward and gave his name as Thomas Robb, an Englishman and commercial traveller residing in Geraldine Street. After taking the oath, he recounted the events of that night. He stated that while he was coming home after seeing Barry Sullivan at the theatre, he encountered Eliza Connor, who had pestered him for some money. He gave her a few pence so she would go away, however she continued to follow him to Drumcondra. At the bridge he saw the prisoners Mulvey and Sherwin, and he asked them if it was going the right way to Geraldine Street. Patrick Mulvey crossed the street and very politely showed him the way. He went home and didn't see Eliza Connor after that. Mr. Robb was clear in his statement. The two carriage drivers had neither demanded money from him nor harmed him in any way, and Eliza Connor's story was a complete fabrication. James Mulvey, a brother of Patrick Mulvey, gave evidence on behalf of the prisoners. He stated that he saw the girl Eliza Connor following Mr. Robb and that the prisoners told her to go away and directed Mr. Robb to his residence. The court was stunned. Eliza Connor, whose testimony had almost condemned two men to a wrongful conviction, was exposed as a liar. The magistrate saw through her deceit and dismissed the charges against Mulvey and Sherwin immediately. But Eliza's day in court was far from over. She was promptly charged with perjury, accused of maliciously and willfully making false accusations that could have led to the deaths of two innocent men. It was later revealed that Eliza, who described herself as a prostitute, had been in trouble with the law 3 times prior to this occasion in the same year. This included resisting arrest, bad language, and fighting, which she had spent a few days in prison for each. The year before, Eliza had spent a couple of months in the Union workhouse, and their records state that she was considered in bad condition when she arrived. On the 17th of October, 20-year-old Eliza, who was 5 foot 1 inches tall with brown hair and hazel eyes, was brought to trial for perjury, facing the very men she had falsely accused. Patrick Mulvey, Christopher Sherwin, Thomas Robb, and James Mulvey took to the stand and reiterated that no violent altercation took place whatsoever. Mr. Robb's recollections left no doubt. Mulvey and Sherwin had done nothing wrong. Inspector Gorman, who had taken great care in presenting the case against Eliza, was praised by the magistrate for his diligence in uncovering the truth. Eliza, once confident in her accusations, was now facing the weight of the law. She was sentenced to 5 years in the Grange Gorman Women's Prison for her crime, but her response was far from remorseful. After hearing her sentence, Eliza responded with words that shocked the courtroom once again. With an almost eerie calm, she turned to the judge and said, "Thank you, sir. That is just what I wanted." As if the gravity of her situation hadn't fully sunk in, she then turned to the jury and said, "God bless you, gentlemen." Patrick Mulvey and Christopher Sherwin were free men, but Eliza Connor's lies were a stark reminder of how easily lives could be destroyed by false accusations, especially in an era when the word of a single witness could mean the difference between freedom and the gallows. Just think, what if Mr. Robb hadn't asked for directions? The fact that Thomas Robb appeared in court seems almost like an extraordinary stroke of luck for Patrick Mulvey and Christopher Sherwin. It's highly likely that when the two men were arrested and charged, they must have realised that the only person who could fully exonerate them was the very gentleman they had helped that night, Mr. Robb. Given that they had directed him to Geraldine Street, they must have asked someone, perhaps a friend, family member, or even their legal representative, to urgently locate Mr. Robb and bring him to court. This would explain his sudden and timely appearance at the hearing. Without Mr. Robb's testimony, though, the situation could have easily spiralled into a wrongful conviction, based solely on the false testimony of Eliza Connor. Had Mr. Robb not asked for directions that night, or had Mulvey and Sherwin not known where to find him, the whole case could have unfolded very differently. The two accused men would have been left without the vital witness who cleared their names. The narrow escape that Mulvey and Sherwin experienced that day highlights how easily circumstances could have turned against them if just one piece of the puzzle had been missing. This case serves as a reminder that not all crimes are what they seem. Innocent men were almost condemned, and a false witness was brought to justice, but only just in time. Thank you for watching Historical Crime Chronicles. If you enjoyed this story and want to explore more of history's forgotten crime cases, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification button so you never miss an episode. See you next time.